Hello and welcome. Today we will be conducting an experiment with our potatoes, and we're going to be seeing whether or not we can grow these potatoes in the climate that we have. We're going to be needing one of these big pots here. We are in the zone for climate, and for potatoes this is actually quite nice. They prefer 15 to 20 degree weather. That's more zone 3, but for zone 4 that could still work. This method will help you grow your potatoes if you don't have a big backyard. If you live in an apartment building, you can grow these potatoes on your balcony. They're really easy to grow, and we're just going to see and experiment whether or not we could do this. I have the date and I have the time here, so we will be going through this honestly, and we will be experimenting with you guys honestly. So today is May 22nd. And we will be using this shallow pot. We don't need a deep pot, as the roots are not going to be as deep, and you will see that later on. We're also going to be needing a plastic cake cover. We're using this one. Make sure just it fits with your pot. It's going to be used for aeration and drainage so that we can get better drainage and better aeration for our potatoes. So we will just be using regular garden soil. The thing about potatoes is that once they begin growing, they don't bury themselves really deeply, and once they actually begin sprouting, they're not that deep, so that's why we don't need these deep pots. So now we're going to talk about our potatoes. So if you have these small potatoes, before you plant them, you want to make sure that they have these sprouts here. And if you don't have these sprouts, what you can do is you can place them in a hot and humid area. And if you don't have a hot and humid area, like I did here, I used a plastic bag. I left it open and I just placed it on my windowsill. It will give the same effect and you will see sprouts very quickly. So that's for your small potatoes. These ones you can just simply plant in. And for your larger potatoes, what you want to do is you want to cut them in half. But you don't want to bury them right away. You want to allow the ethylene, which is a stress hormone that a plant releases once it's injured, you want it to create this cork-like scar on the potato, and then you want to plant it. If you plant it right after you cut it, it will rot. So you want to avoid that. If you're going to use large potatoes, cut them and then wait for them to scar before you plant them. So the pot that we have here is about 40 centimeters in diameter. And for a pot this big, you can plant about maybe 1 or 2. Since they do get pretty big, these bushes do get pretty big. So you're just going to plant 1 or 2, put them in, cover them with the soil. What I like to do is I like to take my hand and I kind of like to poke the soil, and then I put my potato in there. The rest of these small 4 potatoes that I have here, I will plant them in a similar pot. So I will keep you updated. Make sure that you water it periodically, and we will be back with some results. So today has been exactly 100 days since I planted these potatoes. I'm very excited to see what the results are. I'm going to go inside. I can see some potatoes lying on the surface of the pot. I know the average time to grow a potato is to around a good crop size is about 80 to 120 days, depending on the temperature. We had a pretty hot and rainy summer, so I'm hoping for some pretty good results. I never grew potatoes in pot before, and as you can see in the update, it was blooming, growing big, and it's now getting yellow, and some of the stems are beginning to dry off. It's a very clear sign of a ripe potato. I can see some potatoes already on the top, and I hope there are some inside the pot itself.
Let me see, in my first pot we have some big, some small potatoes, but I would say it's actually a really nice result just from these 2 and 4 small potatoes as I planted before. During the summertime, I watered these pots regularly, gave them fertilizer once. The pot was located in a very sunny spot in our garden. The second pot is very good too, with lots of large potatoes, and it grew from just some cut potatoes. So this experiment shows that growing potatoes from a potato in a pot is not a myth. It is very possible and very effective. And in conclusion, I'd have to say that I was actually quite pessimistic in the beginning, thinking that a potato bush needed more space to grow successfully. And in reality, I'm quite pleasantly surprised to see that it just needed some sun, water, and good care in terms of nutrients. Potatoes can be grown in a very small garden, even on a balcony, a patio, an apartment, in a pot, in a vegetable garden. The only con to growing is it's a very, very long process, so it takes up at least 10 weeks of time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Leave any comments or questions you have below, and don't forget to subscribe.